We were born kings, queens. We were all prosperous. It's just crazy to me at how we don't learn this. But yet everybody wants to say, well, Black power, this, Black power, that. But they can't tell you anything about their Black history.
Right.
And that's the thing. If we don't know where we came from, how do we know where we're going?
Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Have a Drink podcast, where I invite y'all to sit, think, and have a drink with us while we dive into the hearts and minds of the generation. So I want to introduce all my brothers here today. We have Omega. We got Rich. Funny Man Eddie. We got Cranberry. This is my nephew, Will. I'm Mr. Z. I'm going to let you introduce your brothers.
We got my brother Sean over there in the bottom in the cute little red hoodie right there. And then we got right there Rakook. I'm looking at you with your look.
All right, gentlemen. Love for us to just jump right in. So you had posed a question, Richard. Can you pose that question one more time?
Of course, no problem. So I'm gonna take it up a notch too. So, because I know we got a different age range around here. So what's something physical or tangible your father has left you? Also, what's something intangible your father has left you? But for my men who want to be fathers or plan on being fathers or even just being an uncle, what's something you'd like to leave your children? So I'll go first. Something tangible my dad left me, nothing. You know what I'm saying? If we're being honest, if we're being all the way honest, I just want to have a conversation with y'all. He left us with a lot of bills. We had to come out of pocket for his funeral. But also, to be honest with you, left us with a lot of just unanswered questions, a lot of hurt. It was a very complicated relationship, to be honest with y'all. So that's something he left us, but also something intangible. He taught me what not to do. You know what I'm saying? I just know what not to be. You know what I'm saying? Something I want to leave my kids is just something physical, something tangible. So, for example, I don't think y'all know this, but I have a really good bobblehead collection. It's not like hefty, but I'm very proud of it. You know what I'm saying? I love baseball. So a lot of my bobbleheads come from like baseball teams. And so I want to leave my kids that, but also just, I want to get the wealth going for them. You know what I'm saying? So of course, just, facts and numbers show, African Americans, we don't really have that generational wealth that we can pass down. So if I can leave my bobblehead collection and some generational wealth that can pass them down where they won't be in the same situation that I was in, I would love to do that. But also if I can just give them something intangibly, just know that, you're loved and you can do whatever you want to do in this world. There'll be barriers, things that can stop you. But, long story short, I hope I lived a life where they can do what I couldn't do. Whatever barrier I had to go through or whatever hurdle I had to go through, I hope, I was the one who eliminated that so they can just run through. In short, what Jay-Z said, Hov did that so you wouldn't have to go through that. You know what I'm saying? And so that's something that I'd like to leave. But floor is open. I'm going to mute my mic.
All right. So two things. The tangible thing that my father left me, he actually didn't leave it. His wife gave it to me. And that's just because I asked and I really wanted it, was I actually have his work shirts and hat. My dad worked for Therma for quite a few years. And the reason why those were so important to me is because he worked so much every day, all day. Every time I looked at it, or if I needed to feel his love, his hug or something, I could wear his work shirt. And his hats. My dad was a big hat wearer, which is where I believe I got it too. My dad, it's crazy I'm about to say this. My father had a Jerry curl. Yes, I know it was supposed to be left in the 80s. He rocked it all until 2003 till we put the dirt over his face. I'm telling you. Through cancer, chemo, the whole nine, that curl was still curled. It was still rocking. I was impressed. I was like, man, Billy D would be proud. But yeah, so that's what I have from him is his work shirt and hat. That's the tangible thing. The intangible thing that my father left me is my work ethic. My dad was a very hard worker and was loved by very many, and I had no idea. And I say that because so many people have come to me that found out what my name is and just started ranting and raving about how great my father was as a boss, as an employee, as an employer. And that really said a lot to me. And I'll tell you a quick story. I promise I'll make it quick. Riding in a car with 3 other gentlemen in there. 2 guys I knew, 1 guy I didn't. The guy I didn't know was in the front seat. And everybody calls me my last name, Gooch. Gooch, Gooch, Gooch. And this guy goes, Gooch. I was like, yes. He's like, do you have a father that worked for Therma? I was like, yeah. He's like, man, your dad was my boss. I was like, what? And I had never met this man a day in my life. He's like, your father was the coolest foreman ever. He's like, man, your dad he really made work great to come to. And I was like flabbergasted. And this is only 2 years after my father had passed that I just happened to run into this gentleman. And that said a lot to me, that the way you treat people, the way you are, as long as you do your job and do it to the best of your ability, people will notice. And just be a generally good person. And that's what I feel like he left for me. And that's what I do. Now, the things that I'm going to leave for my daughter, because I do have a daughter, she's not my blood, but she's my everything. And that is my baby through and through. And the one thing I'm going to leave for her intangibly, I'm going to go backwards, intangibly first, is love. That is the most important thing to me, is that I want her to know that her father loves her to no end. Blood could not make me love her anymore. And I want her to know that. And I want her to know how a man is supposed to treat her by the way she sees me with her mother and the way that I treat her. That is the intangible thing I'm going to leave with her, is how to treat your woman and your daughter. Granted, I made my mistakes as a man, but what man doesn't? But that's the intangible I'm going to leave for her, is love and respect. And the tangible thing I'm going to leave for my children, as you said, is generational wealth. So my thing is I want to buy property with my wife. And that's what I want to leave. If there's anything else that I can do before y'all put that earth over my face, is I want to leave some property for my daughter. And I want her to keep that. Because that's one thing that I can't say I have in my family. When my father passed, his wife sold the house that they had. My mother never had a stable home, still to this day. So therefore, that's the one thing that I do want to leave, is a house. And I want to let it be known. This property is to stay within the family, and you keep this going, because that's important.
So I would say the tangible thing that my father left. Well, first of all, my father, he's still with us. But he has left me quite a few things. The one thing that I cherish the most is a top hat that was given to him from his father, passed down from his father, and I think it came from maybe 2 more generations before that. Mind you, this thing is crusty, it's dirty, but it's just like a traditional thing. Let's see how far down it can go. This far has been passed down to every Eddie Johnson. So I'm Eddie Ray Johnson III, but my forefathers, the 2 grandfathers before my actual grandfather didn't have middle names. I guess that just wasn't a thing back in the 40s and 50s, was having middle names. So they were just Eddie Johnson. And then my grandfather became Eddie Ray Johnson. So hence me being the 3rd. So that's the tangible thing that I have. The intangible thing would have to be the value of family. And my dad never really sat me down and just talked to me about the value of family, but I would see it in my everyday life, especially during holidays, because he would always have 1 or 2 friends that would come by our house. And my dad was a mechanic. They would come by our house on a holiday and ask for a tune-up or get their brakes looked at. And, he'd be like, it's Christmas, I'm not working. They would come in the house and peek and see a house full of people. And they would say, man, we used to make fun of you for having hella kids. And now that we're all up in age, they was wishing that they was in my father's shoes, because here he has kids, grandkids, just a house full of loving people. and these guys are walking around trying to get their brakes fixed on Christmas. So I'm in a similar position. I got hella kids, and then I have some friends that go out and kick it where they want, and sometimes in joke, because I stay home on Friday nights. But I'm cool with that. I find value in the family that I've built and that I'm continuing to grow and nourish. And yeah, so that's the intangible thing. Now, what I would like to pass down to my kids, the tangible thing that I would pass down to my kids would be the rings that I got. I really value of them. I don't really care because it's the sentimental value to me is more than the whatever price they are. Like you guys know, I've been working there since I was 15, and it wasn't always easy, but it was always fun. And I feel like that's a big accomplishment that I can say I have, 2 official championship rings, so I want to be able to pass those down to my kids. Omega he took my thing, Omega, damn it. Let me think of something else. Intangible. I want to pass down the value of traveling. My wife and I are big on traveling. And there are a lot of people who have never left the state they were born in. I've even met somebody who hasn't left their county. So, I just want to pass that down to them and get them out to see the world because it's full of beautiful places, beautiful people. And the world is not small. They say it's small, but it's not. If you think it is, walk to China right now and see how long it takes. So the world is big, it's beautiful, and yeah, you can learn a lot from travel.
If you can walk to China, does that mean the world is flat? Just kidding. Just kidding.
And that was the end of the Have a Drink podcast. Thank y'all for joining us today. That's all we have.
I had to say that.
Walk to China is probably the funniest thing I've heard today. That was actually really good, Eddie. Well played, sir.
All right. If I may add, this is a really great question because, I haven't really thought about it. The only real tangible thing that my dad has left me, and he ain't dead, is me. I mean, to the most part, for the most part, his looks, certain mannerisms. I have that. That I could say is tangible. Intangible that he's left for me is value of family. Like that is something that's been important, but just left me with stuff not to do. Like I looked at all the things he did throughout his life and I just learned what not to do. The kind of things that I'd like to leave for my kids is gonna not just be what not to do, but something intangible. Yeah, love, respect, all of that, but open eyes. I want to leave them with open eyes, a way that they can perceive the world from a different angle, from lots of different angles. Like I don't want them to go through life closed-minded. I want them to go through life understanding the value of friendships and brotherhoods and sisterhoods and whatever else comes their way, and to understand how to stand up for themselves, those kinds of things, just values. Something tangible I'd like to leave them. Memories they can actually look back on, not just in their own mind, but like, us creating things together, having fun together, like things that we've built, whatever they find value in. I can't really foresee what would be valuable to them tangibly in the future other than money, and that's a given. That's where we're all trying to strive to like provide for our families, is generational wealth. so that, you know, when I pass, you know, they're not struggling to figure out what to do next with, you know, everything, because we've had grandparents pass away recently, and or not very recently, but like a year or so ago, and having to deal with burial and all the that came with it, like debt and everything, is kind of crazy. So I'd like to not leave them debt. Let's start there. Let's start with not leaving them debt and work up,
like,
you know.
have them live a good stable life. Like,
Yeah, you know.
I'm kind of in the same position. I never had my father around ever. I remember when I was like 12 years old, I met him, and I didn't like him at all. I didn't like who he was because my mom had painted this picture of him being this amazing person, and then I had realized that he wasn't, that he was a really bad dude, and that he wasn't, he just wasn't a very good person at all. Um, and I remember the only thing that I had really ever gotten from him was like you said, like I learned from his mistakes, and I decided to go a completely different route than he has in his life. And then something that he actually gave to me was he gave me this, like, the last time I ever seen him, he gave me this little Oakland A's hat, and I remember I used to have it all the time. And I remember one day I just decided, like, fuck this shit. I don't need this. I don't need this person in my life. I don't want this person. This person don't deserve me. Da 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 woo woo. So I got rid of it. So long story short, I don't have anything else. I don't have anything from him necessarily. But when I have my own family, the biggest thing I think I want to give to him, what is it? Tangible, intangible? Yeah. Intangible is
Something that you can't touch.
okay, yeah. So something intangible I want to give my family, my children, and their kids is the biggest thing is pride, pride in their selves and who they are, and just mainly because what they like, their culture, their what literally what they are, like literally, like they're probably gonna be in their most, like, I want them to be proud of having that Latino in them. I want them to be proud of having that white in them. I want them to be proud of having that whatever else is in them. Because I grew up not being able to have that kind of pride. I grew up being torn down by my mom's side of the family, which is the white side of the family, for being something else, completely different. And I can never go a day like they always wanted me to be this little preppy white kid, da 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 woo woo woo. They always wanted me to be that. They didn't even like it if I started speaking Spanish. They don't like none of that shit because they're just in their own little box. But anyway, for my kids, the intangible thing is just pride in themselves because I never had that. And then something tangible, I think, would be, I don't know. I can't think, like you said, just live a stable life, have a good life so far. Like, money is really the only thing I could think of right now. But yeah, that's all I was trying to say, really.
Well said. Well said. Let's see. What about you, Sean?
um, I mean, my dad hasn't really left me anything but like lessons because I'm not out the house yet or whatever. So, but for my kids, something intangible would be like, because kids are a long way from now. I don't plan on having kids anytime soon, so I haven't really ever thought about what I would give my kids, but probably opportunity because if they don't have enough growing up, then they're not gonna be in position to do what they want, or they're gonna feel like they can't do what they want. So I feel like if they know I'll be supported if I do X, Y, and Z, then that's probably the best I can do because I would want to support my kids on whatever they do. They want to be a lawyer, cool, doctor. As long as there's nothing illegal, then I'm perfectly fine with it. And then money, of course, because I don't really have anything of value right now to give kids because I'm quite young myself. I am still a kid. So yeah.
How about this, just to kind of probe to get that answer out a little bit easier? What would you like to have left for you? So let's say like how we've all said, you know, if we said money or whatever, said property or anything like that, like what is something that you feel you would like left for you?
So,
Or if you don't feel like if you feel that's uncomfortable, then just think, well, if this was left to me, maybe I could pass it down to them.
I don't know. I don't like being given things, to be honest. It makes me feel bad. That's why I'll never ask for anything for my birthday or Christmas. I don't like asking for things, so I feel bad. So like, there's nothing I can think of that I would want to receive because I don't know. Never really been that kind of person to ask for things.
Respect.
I want to interject quickly. I'm sorry, Omega.
Mike?
Sean, man, when's your birthday?
In November.
In November? Okay. What I want to do is try to keep a note of myself. You said something that just kind of like triggered me. Long story short, through my experiences, I'm a big believer. And I'm sorry, and I don't mean to interject. I'm make it real quick. I'm a big believer in just celebrating people, but also give people their flowers while they can. So I get it. It's uncomfortable. I would love to go deep and just investigate why isn't, you don't like, getting gifts, but I was the same way. And long story short, it's taken me years to correct that. You know what I'm saying? It's just like, you got to understand, people care about you. People want to celebrate you, but also most importantly, people love you. You know what I'm saying? And so I get it, mind you, I'm not going to get a shopping spree, but you know what I'm saying? Like something small, just something thoughtful. Hey man, I'm just thinking about you. I just appreciate you. That's how people show and express love. So we ain't got to talk about it now because I don't want to get off track. I do want to hear from the homie, is it Rakug? I do want to hear his response. I'm very interested in that, but I want to touch on that later with you at the very least sometime in November. But long story short, man, people do care about you. Point blank, period. And I'm sorry, I just had to interject. I didn't mean to be rude or step out of line, but I just had to say something.
No, it's all good. It's all good.
You
It's all
got it.
love. It's all
That's
love.
what
Yeah,
this shit about.
yeah, absolutely.
I value my family's time and love over anything they can give me physically. Anything like, I don't know, they can buy me something, but that doesn't matter in the long term. That's not going to give me memories of my people. So I just prefer to, to hang out with them on my birthday or whatever. I never really tripped over getting items and stuff. If I want something, I'll go out and buy it myself.
I hear you and I acknowledge that. But out of fear of getting strike two, I'm gonna just say I hear you and I acknowledge that. We can come back later. But thank you for keeping tracks, Eddie. I'm done. I'm not gonna say nothing no more.
Like I said, it's all love. All right, let's move over to our man Raku. Well, what about you, brother? Same questions.
My father never left me nothing. I mean, his connection was always off. So like I've never, and it wasn't because like he couldn't or whatever, or he never tried. It was because of me. Like after hearing and witnessing what he did to my family, I didn't want no connection with him. And to this day, me and my mom, we even talked about this earlier. I have to get over that. But yeah. One thing intangible was, and it sounds weird, but he left me ways to not be a man. So I know the wrongs. I know how not to be a man because of him. And now it's just on me to make, the right steps to become the man, to do what he didn't do and or what he couldn't do. Um One thing tangible I want to leave my kids, really I would want to make, like, I want to have my own business to pass down so they don't got to trip off of nothing. Um, and I haven't decided what yet, but I want it to be a family business. I want to teach them, you know, the business side of everything so they don't go into owning the business blind. And it's on them what they want to do with the business, and change it up or whatever. Uh, One thing intangible is I want to teach them, like Will said, pride and being who they are. We live in a world where it's either you follow other people or you look at as, somebody who's not supposed to be here. Um, or I guess I'm putting the wrong words, but just having pride in who you are and you're you. You ain't gotta be nobody else. You know, things like that.
Beautiful answer. Beautiful answer. Yeah. Great question too, Richard. Like, I assume that came up today as like something in the background for you while you're having your family meeting.
No, it came up yesterday when I was biking downtown last night. They were talking about it on this one podcast that I listened to. I don't know if Cranberry went though. I don't think he did, but if he
Still
did,
waiting on the OG Cranberry.
still waiting on OG
And
Cran.
I
But
was
no,
just,
thank you, Z. I appreciate that, Chief.
Of course.
for me, I would say like he didn't leave anything. We didn't have the best relationship, so I was like maybe 13 or something. But we like grew closer later in life. I was like a jacko at like 13. I told him like on top 10 things to do, was talking to you is not one of them. So that didn't really start the relationship off right. But anyway, I would say I may have gotten some clothing passed down from him. But one thing that I did learn is how to be a businessman and not how to make marriage mistakes. If that's something that you can learn from a non-tangible thing. For me, things that I want to do for my kids, to be present, to show them how to stunt. I'm sorry, just kidding on that last one. But basically show them financial literacy so that they don't believe everything that they see, and how to know how at a young age, this is how I'm supposed to move my money, and never be afraid to talk into circles that do not have people that represent them. So yeah.
I really enjoyed that answer. Very much
Me
so,
too.
because financial literacy is very important.
Thanks, man.
Can I actually say one more thing? I just want to blanket this to everybody is I commend everyone that said they felt like they have nothing that was left to them. And the only thing that was left to them was what not to do. Because there's a saying that goes, a smart man learns from his mistake, but a wise man learns from the mistakes of others. So therefore, you are showing how wise you can be by learning from those mistakes. Because I too, even though I sing the praises of my father was a very flawed man too. There's a lot of things that I've learned of what not to do, or that I shouldn't do, or that I've come to find out that I naturally did just like him. And that's gonna happen. But just understand, every positive there's a negative, every negative there's a positive. And every parent does not have a book or a blueprint on how to raise children. And there is no actual blueprint on how to have a successful marriage or relationship. It's just on what are you willing to do for your family. Some of us are strong, some of us are not. But whatever you can do, dig deep within your heart and your soul and find that for yourself.
That was beautiful. That was really good.
Yeah, man.
That's fire.
I mean, I feel like that's the way to like move forward in life, especially with what you don't have. Turn your weakness into your strength and move forward. You know, that's kind of lessons I want to teach in all the things that I make. Yes, I'll make a shirt.
Calm you must keep and trust in the technique.
Thank you.
Yeah, that just happened right now.
Appreciate
All
it.
right, let's hit on to the next thing on the docket. Go ahead.
It's the overall conversation of Ahmaud Arbery, and the things that happened to this young man. I guess we can kind of give like a TLDR. You know, young man jogging through the streets, gets hunted down by two white men, one father, one son, with shotguns, and with a shotgun, and as they get into a tussle and struggle, the young man gets shot and murdered right there in the street.
One on the chest falls. Face
face
into the
first.
concrete.
So,
Yeah.
first question I would like to pose surrounding this situation is the recent response that has happened around it with the black militia. I just kind of want to hear some of your guys' thoughts on this response. Like, do you feel like it was appropriate? I know we kind of got into it during like the group chat, but I'm kind of curious. Like, I mean, like I said, I'd personally be right there with everybody, but I'm just kind of curious of what your guys' thoughts and feelings are surrounding that and the response.
I don't think it's anything malicious about um, having a weapon to protect yourself. If going out, if you can get killed going out jogging, then you should be able to jog with some defense, and it shouldn't be a problem. Period. I mean, the weapons that they had weren't concealed; they were rifles, which are legal. So I just, yeah, I don't see a problem with that at all. I would gladly run around with a shotgun if necessary.
Yeah, me personally, being someone who doesn't condone the use of guns or gun violence, um, still in that situation, like that natural response of like, oh, so I'm going to need one in order to protect myself. Fine. I feel like that, then sure, yeah, I'm totally down. It was interesting to see how quickly feelings can shift in situations like that. Of like, if that means that I'm not going to have to worry about whether or not someone's going to try to like harm me, approach me just because just because of the color of my skin, then I'm right there with it. Um, what about you, Cran?
Um, I agree with you guys. Especially if I put myself in the South, I'm definitely carrying because it's an open carry state. But more importantly, like the times I've been in the South, I always see this Confederate flag, and I'm always confused because I'm like, that's the team that won. Why are we always talking about the team that won? Second place is hardly remembered. Um, but I think as African Americans, we have to. Mostly, I'm with the nonviolence piece, but in this scenario, we've tried nonviolence and it hasn't worked. But more importantly, I think the African American race is different than other races. Therefore, if you see people being picked on by, let's say they picked on the Chinese, China would be like, stop messing with our people in your country, or it's other ethnicities. I think with Black people in Africa, we kind of split. And basically, they're not going to speak up for us. So we feel like we don't have a place to truly call home. And if we continuously allow to be nonviolent and not say anything, then the silence is consent. But yeah, I'm down with it.
It's just interesting. I want to say Dave Chappelle's last stand up, or maybe the stand up before last, he basically saying like, if you want to see change in America, Black people like go out and get a registered guns license or something like that. Then that'll change everything. So to your question, Z, I don't have an issue with it, to be honest with you. And this is coming also from my aspect. We don't got to dig into it now. Like, I've been in the right place at the wrong time, quote unquote, fit the identity. And a lot of people in this group have probably heard that story. Hey, like, we've all, quote unquote, fit the identity of some in the area. And long story short, like, I could have been Ahmaud Arbery. I'll never forget it. This was DC summer 2011. I remember like it was yesterday, but that legit could have been me. So I'm all for it because I don't want to think what life would be like for my people if, I was, tragically and unjustly killed. You know what I'm saying? This was 9 years ago, almost this summer. Yeah, 9 years ago this summer. And I just hurt for the Arbery family, but also uh, other family that's like going through this grief that, the cop got off or the white person got off. You know what I'm saying? or wasn't nothing awarded. So if this is what it's going to take for us to progress and just move forward and just get treated justly, let's go for it.
One thing I want to say, and it's like very messed up that the fact that just because of our skin color, and I can't say our skin color because if a cop passes me by me, they're not going to look at me as a black man, not so much as a black man. Like they, I don't get the same treatment, which is it's still horrible. The fact that skin color is what separates people in terms of you're safe and you're not. Um, no, but I'm all with it, honestly. Um, the thing is, even if I feel like even if we were to be like, okay, we got guns, freely now, um, enough just sitting here, it's still the fact that everybody pictures a black person killing a black person. So everybody feels like, okay, well, if they're doing it to each other, we have the rights to do it to them too. And like it's messed up, and it's hard to say, like, yeah, like you said, um if a Chinese person gets picked on over here, China's quick to say something. But if we get picked on, Africa won't say anything. And it's the fact that we were never able to come together, which it's people who still try to come together as a community, and people who try, those type of people, they don't get aired out in the media, they don't get seen. The only people who get seen are, blacks killing blacks, and white people feel like that could still happen, so they kill blacks, and nothing has changed. But I'm pretty sure us carrying guns though, and this making it bigger than, this having a bigger media spot than what blacks killing blacks will be, it'll be a change. Because as soon as as soon as the spotlight is on us coming together, everything's gonna change, I feel like. But until that happens, nothing will change.
Agreed. I feel as if this is very reminiscent of the struggle that Dr. King went through, of persistent nonviolence, to a point where I feel like I mentioned this before, to a point where he was starting to veer towards the same outlooks and beliefs of Malcolm X, and to have those two brothers team up was very dangerous for individuals back then, because these two very powerful, influential men of color in their communities, getting enough people to rise up and follow against them. I mean, you see how that turned out. They wanted to squash that really quick, and they did for the most part.
It's unfortunate because I kind of just I have to sit back and watch everything that happens. I've always had to just sit back and watch and enjoy the show, as people on my mom's side would say, which is really fucked up, quite frankly. And I always just kind of had to sit back and watch and everything that happened. When I'm sitting here knowing for a fact it's not right, it don't feel right, it don't look right, it don't sound right. It's not a good situation for anyone to be in. And obviously, just by looking at me, obviously I'm not in the same situation as you gentlemen would be in, but I can't say that I understand, but I can say that I can try, and I've always tried to. I've always tried my best to kind of put myself in that perspective and try and understand what young black men have to go through. And it's a really hard situation.
It's hard to understand someone else's struggle if you're not in their shoes.
Exactly.
If it hasn't, if the atrocities have not been committed towards you. It's why I sent that tweet out one time of, people won't be moved to action unless it directly affects themselves, because they won't understand. And even the other one, the you're not going to see the imbalance until you're on the on the higher half of the scale. You'll be able to look down and see, oh snap, there's an imbalance to this. I have no control over this. No one's going to help. You know. Yes.
In so many words, people don't care until it affects them. You know what I'm saying? Until it affects me. For example, with the Mike Brown, I'm gonna just go deep. Let's just go there. Sandra Bland, right? We familiar? How about we went to college together? No joke. I knew Sandra. Very, very much so. You know what I'm saying? So, of course, like, Trayvon really affected me. You know what I'm saying? Michael Brown. You know what I'm saying? And that hits home because those guys could have been me. You know what I'm saying? But also slain unjustly. Their killers walk home scotch-free. You know what I'm saying? Sandra Bland, I knew her. We went to the same university. You know what I'm saying? That's my homegirl's line sister. That's how I met her. You know what I'm saying? Cool girl. Not a shadow of doubt. You cannot tell me that woman did not commit suicide. You can never tell me that. You know what I'm saying? But anyways, that affects me. Also, y'all know my history. Growing up in, doing a sports thing, I was in these small towns. I experienced that racism personally. You know what I'm saying? And so, of course, when it happens, it's heavy on you. It's tough, right? So, but they couldn't relate to that. It's just, oh, well, it's not me. Keep on going. All right, well, let's let little Becky or whoever, little Ashley, get like slain and murdered in the street. And that happens unjustly. Then that reaction comes. You know what I'm saying? Then you see the pain and the grief that we constantly deal with. But you want justice. You know what I'm saying? If you ask me, I don't think an arrest is justice. I don't get excited by arrests no more. I get excited by convictions. You know what I'm saying? People don't really care until it affects them. And I'm guilty of it. I'll be the first to say. But just with dealing so much and just being Black in America, just trying to keep my head above water, I ain't got time to just be worried about other things. You know what I'm saying? But when, situations like Brother Arbery happens, Sister Breonna Taylor, you know what I'm saying? Like, those things affect me because those are people that look like me. But I also see how the justice system is skewed against us as well.
Very smooth.
Sean, jump in, because I've seen you had your hand a couple times. Go ahead, brother.
I feel like the issue is that we're too scared to do anything. I feel like we all came together way sooner. I'm not saying change happens overnight, but we could be way closer to solving problems. But you look at grow up, you see things, you hear news stories about young African Americans getting brutalized and stuff. And instead of forming together and saying that's not right, we're long past the days of racism, which racism is still a thing, but you know what I mean. But instead of speaking up, we just stay quiet for the most part and just let it happen. So it's cool to see that, we're finally like, okay, this is the final straw. It's cool to see a lot of African Americans come together, and in a civilized way instead of going out and killing people. Because, I wouldn't hold it past them because you're frustrated seeing your friends and family getting killed. I wouldn't put it past them. I personally wouldn't do it because I feel like it makes you worse than the person doing it to you. But we're being civilized about it. We're coming together, trying to be the bigger people. And I feel like this is a good first step in the right direction.
Go ahead.
I want to Botham Jean, that one really struck a chord with me. That was the brother that was sitting in his own house eating ice cream that was murdered by a woman, an off-duty officer, in his own house, claiming it was mistaken identity. Philandro Castillo was another one that struck a chord with me, because that was a father in his car with his family, registered gun owner, shot and killed, who was also a person who worked in education. See, things like that really affect me. And to see that this too just happened. I just ran that day when I found out about this young brother getting shot. And I didn't even think about it. Like, that could have been me easily. I think about that all the time. But the thing that really gets to me is this is nothing new. This is nothing new. And to see how people are like, well, we have the new Black Panther Party coming out and they're standing out there with their guns. This has happened before with the original Black Panther Party. But then what did they do? They disarmed them. Why did they disarm them? Because they put them on the FBI watch list. Why did they put them on the FBI watch list? Because they classified them as terrorists. Because they seen that we have the ability to organize and take care of our own. They were scared. And that's the thing. If you look at A Birth of a Nation, not the one that was just made by Nate, but the original Birth of a Nation, we were seen as sex-crazed killers, rapists, the lowest of the low. So it has been in history that we have been known as something to be feared. Whether we're running, sleeping, sitting, kneeling, whatever we do, we've been shown to be something to be feared. People fear what they don't understand. They don't understand because they don't want to know. They don't want to know because that is how they keep their strength. But I'm going to say this. The only way we will ever be able to come together is if we can actually communicate clearly with each other and come up with an agenda together. And that is what is not happening. It is never going to happen right now because everybody is so emotional and everybody's grabbing at straws. We have so many people we are literally I hate this, but it's the truth. We are the crabs in a bucket. We are always trying to pull down somebody to get over on somebody because we want to get out for ourselves and our family. But not realizing if we just help each other up, we all can lift up together. And it's so sad because we have dark-skinned brothers cutting down light-skinned brothers. We have Democrats cutting down Black Republicans. And in fact, the Black people were Republicans first in history. We all were Republicans first. But we're always trying to cut and figure out, well, we don't want that. And the liberals or the Californians are different. The Black Californians are different from the Southern Black people, and which are different from the East Coast Black people. And everybody's so different that nobody wants to see the common interest, which is we need to come together to live. So until we can do that, we will always see these same news stories. And the problem that I have with these news stories is this. They keep running them shooting us. So much so, people are becoming desensitized to it. How many times have you guys seen on your feed or on the news this brother getting shot by these people?
That's what they're hoping for.
So many
You know,
times.
they're hoping for us to become desensitized to the fact that one brother after another is being shot, whether it's in freaking BART station or in his own backyard. You know, like it's ridiculous. Sean, you have something you want to say?
So me and my uncle were talking a few days ago, and he said something that hit different for me. He said, why oppress something that's lesser than us, like lesser than the person you're trying to oppress? You don't oppress things that are lesser than you. He said we're a lot more special than any of us really know. We just haven't figured that out yet, and that really hit. It's like, that does make sense. Why oppress people you don't feel like are worth anything? We're worth a lot more than we could ever imagine. We just haven't figured that out yet. So I feel like us coming together is one step closer to figuring out our true potential.
Question for everybody, and I want you guys to think about this, and I'm touching on the same thing you just talked about, Sean. What is the richest continent on this planet?
Africa.
So why does everybody oppress us?
Because you have to you can't allow the powerful continent understand they're powerful. You therefore have to bribe them with the various country takeovers to let them know that they can't understand their own value in order for others to still profit off of them. It's like the cell phone thing. each cell phone or each smartphone that we have, there's a mineral that's in Africa that usually causes one African child to die. So therefore, the smartphones were very popular during the Obama era and during the Trump era. But if you look at it, there was something that I was watching with Dr. Umar Johnson. Supposedly, each president usually has like a national mandate and a international mandate. And supposedly what took place during those years was there was a war between the Congo about the resources they were getting from Africa. During the Obama presidency, they basically made a truce, which therefore we could go in and start using more of African resources, which did lead to a profit of major proportions for American and other big nations. So I just think they know what's powerful. We just don't know how powerful we truly are.
And how do they keep that from us? How do they keep that from us?
Divide and conquer.
Yep.
Not only that, but also think about this. When do you learn about real world history?
After you get out of school.
In college. How many of us are really getting to college? How many of us are really paying attention to that? Like, granted, our college, yes, we are really getting in there. But the thing is this, is like, it takes us 12, 13 years just to start to learn about who we are. We are world history. World history should be taught then, because they teach us about everybody else. They teach us about everything else, but they don't teach us about us. We are not born slaves.
True.
We were born kings, queens. We were all prosperous. And I say we all because you know what? We all come from the same place.
True.
Everybody.
Can I say something? Oh,
yeah. No, I was just going to say, it's like, it's just crazy to me at how we don't learn this. But yet everybody wants to say, well, Black power, there's Black power, that. But they can't tell you anything about their Black history.
Right.
And that's the thing. If we don't know where we came from, how do we know where we're going?
That's like, we don't really learn about world history until like college, after high school. And a lot of us don't make it to college or want to pursue education after high school. But if you look at the slave trade, how America was built, it was built on the backs of slavery. That's the whole, I always laugh when they say, make America great again. I'm like, which era are you pointing to? When Mississippi was leading the other states? But basically now the prison system has become your new slavery. So therefore, if I can take a lot of the mindsets of the kings and queens and put them into an incarcerated system and then get labor that's 85 cents an hour, I can still make things at the price that are similar to what happened in slavery.
That's insane.
Yeah.
Big business.
Yep.
Yes.
Big business. Current chattel slavery with big business. And I'm sorry I've been so long-winded on this. I apologize. I just really, really been very passionate about this one. I mean, if you guys can't tell, man, it really hurts. And to see you guys, that Arbery could have been any one of us. Any one of us.
Really
Any
could've.
one of us. Because that now they're talking about, well, he was running from a property that he was looking at, that people were shouting at him to stop because he wasn't where he was supposed to be, and he didn't stop or listen to anybody, and he ran. Oh, and he ran and he had a gun on him. So what? If it's a concealed carry or open carry state, it's okay that he has a gun on him. So why does that matter? Did he pull that gun? Did he do that? Because no, because what I seen him throwing them fists with people with rifles. That doesn't make sense to me. Because if he was fearing for his life and was ready to fight or to stand and fight, he would go for his hip. Doesn't make sense. So there's so many things coming out. They're trying to discredit this brother, but there's one thing I do want to point out, and I hope y'all understood and caught this. What's the one thing that they did not show about him? They didn't show a mugshot. They're not talking about drugs, alcohol, and none of that. They're showing great pictures of him, and that brought so much joy to my heart to see that somebody took a hold of it and placed a good picture of him or pictures of him, positive pictures of him, and have been talking positively about him. And I know they're looking for him. They're trying to find some type of dirt. That's why they're talking about him, other footage of him running from a place or having a weapon or whatever. They're going to try and smear his name. But hopefully this moment we will finally lay down our differences and come together, not just as a Black people, but as a people. As a people. Because I just read yesterday that there are young brothers and sisters down south in Southern Cal that are doing harm to our Latino brothers that are out there working. They're just running up on them, just slapping them, shocking them, and just doing bad on them just for no reason. This is terrible, because now we're going back to tearing each other apart. We've had our differences before, but this is not the time to separate. It's the time to come together as a people, not just as a Black people, not just as people of color, but as a people. We need to come together.
I agree. I don't want to steer too far away from this, but quickly, I just kind of want to say we were watching Trolls World Tour, and I'm like, as we're watching it, we get towards the end, they're talking about how everybody's differences is what should bring us all together. You know, it should be what helps us prosper. It should be what helps move us forward, because differences are what make people unique and what make people special and people.
Pride within ourselves.
Yeah, pride within ourselves. But earlier, Rakuk, you said there was a video. I know Omega, you mentioned this, but I wanted to bring it back to my brother down here for a moment, because you had said there was something else that came out. I just kind of wanted to expand on it a little bit, just so we can have a good picture.
Really want to say, so today, and I don't remember what news channel posted it. It was a video of him walking into the house, and not deep into the house, literally right there by the doorstep, and looked around and left, and like after just a few seconds. And the homeowners, they spoke out about it, and they said, one, nothing was stolen. Two, they if they were there, that would not have happened, because they would have let him, you know, if he's looking around, he didn't come in, he didn't he didn't like look for anything to steal. He just looked at the project and left after a few seconds. They said that they are deeply sorry for the family, and very sad. That was today, which is crazy, because after I got done doing research, I was bored, and I was like, do some more research, and then seen that video. And then also, it was a 20-year-old white male who just been arrested for putting out comments on Facebook saying that, and putting out threats saying that if for any Ahmaud Arbery protests, he's threatening them. He's threatening any empowerment movement that's going to help, our community, and got arrested for it today, which was very shocking, because you don't usually see that happen, Another thing, in Georgia, when I was reading on the laws about Georgia, and this must have been before it was an open gun state. It was what, Title 16, subsection 16, says no person shall have in his possession any dangerous weapon unless you are a on-duty cop or any on-duty, law enforcement. So that must have been before this, but or before that happened. They must not never updated it. But yeah, it's very scary when you think about how many times we've seen that video and was not, crying from looking at it, was not traumatized from looking at it. And it's messed up, because one, whoever posted the video and made it go viral was not thinking about the family of Ahmaud Arbery. Now that family cannot go on any social media platform, including Google or YouTube, without seeing their loved one getting shot. Two, it's crazy because people especially like my generation, are quick to say, "Oh, we're down with Black Power," and then post stuff like that. They're not helping. This happened in February. It only came out because it was accidentally put out by the video. Which, okay, that was the only time it being a good. It was good, because that's how we found out what happened, by the video. But that it shouldn't one, it should not have been like that. We should not have discovered it by the video. Two, after it was discovered, all videos should have been taken down. You know, um, because it's just like in the 50s and 40s, when they used to use pictures of Black people getting hung and burned as postcards. So a loved one cannot go in without trying to mail something without seeing their loved one, or a picture of them being hung, being euthanized, being, anything. And it's history repeats itself, and it's sad that this is something of history that's repeating itself. In terms of showing you guys, this is happening. It's not going to change because we don't feel like we don't feel like changing. Another thing about the blacks, terrorizing the Mexicans. Two big gangs, the F-13 and Crips, just squashed their beef a few weeks ago after 30 or 20 years, and they said that we've come to realize that we are not each other's enemy. Trump and the people who's been trying to put us down is our enemy, and it's time for us to come together. So I don't think it was necessarily or no, I don't think it was like Black people doing that because they felt like doing that. I feel like they attacked them because they knew that we come together, they're not going to make any profits off anything. Right now, we are making profits off of each other's deaths, off of each other's, sadness, sorrow, and pain, and we don't care. Like, crabs in a barrel. If I can push you down, that's gonna make me money. I will do it, and that's how we think about each other, and that's why falling under the stereotype of we don't give two fucks about each other, still is here present today. And the people, like I said earlier, people who actually care about each other, they don't get shown in the media because nobody's making profit out of that. But yeah,
For sure. Thank you for expanding on that, brother.
Um,
Sean?
I'd like to add on to the pushing each other down part, because when you're in a bad situation and see opportunity to succeed, you sell your soul, not to the devil, but you give away all your values, your morals to succeed. That means cutting off loved ones. That means maybe even doing something illegal, doing something basically something you wouldn't regularly do, which is selling your soul. So the problem is that we're people who are growing up in bad neighborhoods are selling their souls instead of banding together. Like, hey, if we all come together, we can all come up together. Like, no, I'm gonna bring me and I don't know, my mom. We finna go up. Rest of y'all, fuck y'all. That's the issue. This behavior needs to stop. We just need to come together and raise it together, because we can build something beautiful, but we refuse to because we're quick to see opportunity and just jump to it instead of trying to help everyone else prosper. It's selfish. That's basically all I want to say. Selling your soul.
All right. I wanted to, first of all, bro, that was really good. Second of all, I wanted to add on what Rakug was saying earlier about just people recording shit. Like, and I know that's not like the main idea of what you were saying earlier, but I wanted to just say something about like our generation and what I've noticed, what everyone is going through as far as like me, Rakuj, Sean, all of us. I've noticed that for some reason everyone on their story is just like they posting this shit and everything, and I feel they probably do like feel bad genuinely. They probably feel bad for this person genuinely, but at the same time it's like, what would y'all have done? What are you guys gonna do? Like, you just, in reality, you guys are just seeing this and posting it because, and it's funny because I had this conversation with someone. I slid up on this story and I was like, what do you know about this? What do you actually know about this? Other than this little picture that you just found on the internet, what do you actually know about what went down? What do you know about what happened in that situation? And he said, I don't know. I just feel bad. And I'm like, how you gonna feel bad about something you don't understand? Like,
It's not just enough to feel bad about it. You have to understand why you're feeling bad about it and understand how to correct
and he
it.
couldn't tell me why though.
Right.
So I'm sitting there. So you just trying to get some clout off this shit,
Right.
which is an unfortunate thing because there are people who will just sit there and they'll say, "Oh, Black Power, da da da, woo woo woo," and they'll try to act all cool about it, but they don't know nothing about it.
Right.
They're not paying attention to the situation. They're not trying to put their energy into helping the situation at all. They're just trying to like put themselves out there,
Right.
but being low key about it.
Right.
Which is really unfortunate. And another thing about the whole recording thing is that what I've noticed is, especially with our generation, because we're the ones that grew up with this shit, when shit is going down, when things are going down, and I'm sorry if I'm like cussing a lot, I can't help it. I try not to, but anyway, when things are happening, we automatically go to, I'm about to get some clout off this shit. I'm about to post this on the gram. I'm about to put this on Snapchat. I'm about to get so many retweets on this shit. It's like when me, Sean, and Raku, one of our favorite artists, like what, 2 years ago now, Tentacion, passed away. This man got shot in the neck 3 times in his car, in his little i8. You know what everyone did? You know what all his fans did? They all ran up on his car and they started recording. They like, look, it's X, oh, da da da, it's X, oh, da da da, woo, 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 woo. Nobody was like, oh shit, is he good? Is he good? Is he good? The thing that I've noticed about our generation, and it's very unfortunate, we're not very open-minded, even though there are a few of us that are. Me, Sean, and Raku that are sitting here right now, I'm not trying to put us on this high-ass pedestal or nothing, but we are very different than most of the people that we know.
Most of the people you know, they're addicted to their screens. They don't see anything past here. I mean, hell, we went as far as getting the machine so I could take my lazy ass and put my hands down and my screen could be right in front of my eyes.
They don't want nothing past that.
Like, yeah.
The dream that we've noticed, especially in our school alone, the people that go to our school, their dream is, oh, if I have all these followers, oh, da da da, I got all these friends, oh, da da da, I'm gonna look cool posting this. I'm gonna act like I feel some type of way about this situation.
Right.
They don't give a fuck. Not for real. Not genuinely. They're not actually trying to do anything to help the situation. And by doing all this shit, it's not helping.
So,
Can I?
Go ahead.
like, I didn't even see this video until like yesterday because I am honestly tired of seeing it. I knew what it was when it would pop up, and I would avoid it just because it is upsetting. You know, I have 3 brothers. This could happen to them. You know, when Oscar Grant got killed, I was at the BART station like 2 hours before the incident happened, coming home from work. You know, and like we've talked about this before about how bullying mentality, like, you know, picking on or fighting somebody who's not in a position to defend themselves. Somebody that's not armed is not in a position to defend themselves against a gun. So I feel like that's like the most cowardly thing a human can do is to shoot somebody that's not armed. You know, like, you know, and I'm all for peace, but it's just it's not all the way real. Like, you know, fights are gonna happen, confrontations are gonna happen. I just really wish that it wouldn't come down to shooting an unarmed person. And back to what Cranberry said about, you know, if something happens to a Chinese person, China comes, you know, China has their back. And if something happens to us, Africa don't have ours. I don't think we had to go that far. when this coronavirus thing kicked off in around where you're at, Omega, there was a gun store owner who said that his shop is in the Asian community. He said that he would make 70 grand a year from his gun shop. When Corona came, he made 100 grand within 3 months because Asian people were being picked on and discriminated against so much that they went out and armed themselves. Now, this was put on the news in such a way that they wanted people to, leave the Asian people alone. It's not their fault. Now they're arming themselves because they're being picked on and discriminated against. It's going to become a bigger problem. And they getting that support right here. That's not from China. They getting that here. But what if we do that? We're gonna have a criminal tag on our forehead. Oh, the niggas is getting guns. That's what it's gonna come across as. So I don't think we have to go that far. China and Africa support. No, what about here? Like, I'm supposed to be an American, right? So, forget whatever country I originated from, or I was stolen from, or where he was from. I'm supposed to be an American. I'm supposed to get support from here, and we don't get that. So, and like, it's like this is upsetting for me. So I hope I don't come across as like being hella negative, but like I am all for peace. I honestly feel that it is so important to protect ourselves nowadays, not just Black people, everybody, because everybody is acting crazy. Like Omega, I totally agree with the knowledge and cool, the unity. Like, we all need to come together. And Sean, I think you said the same thing. But don't none of that shit matter when you jogging down the street and somebody's about to shoot you. I don't care how many books you read, or if you know where your great ancestor came from, or what African tribe you came from. That stuff is cool. But when it's game time, what are you gonna do? So that's why I do think it is very important that we become legally armed and we protect ourselves. We learn how to use the weapon so we're not making dumb mistakes. And getting back on the unity and building ourselves up as a culture. Martin Luther King, Malcolm X was doing that too, and we've seen what happened. It's not like this is a new idea. That's what the civil rights movement was all about. They were 10 times more together than we are now. And that got cut down. And as far as I know, they weren't arming themselves as necessary. Of course it wasn't legal, but it wasn't legal back then. It was harder for them. But we have that opportunity, and I know I'm like contradicting myself, kind of. I'm not like promoting, go out, get a gun, go shoot somebody and look at you sideways. But I just think it's important for us to be prepared to defend ourselves. If it's a white man, a black man, a pit bull running at you, because I would hate to hear that Z, God forbid, was gunned down, or Omega, or anybody, like, because once the trigger's pulled, don't none of that stuff matter. And another thing, once it's pulled, none of the stuff that happens after you're dead will make you any difference. And that might sound somewhat selfish, but I value my life. I want to see my kids grow. You know what I'm saying? I want to be here for my wife. And I know you all got family that you want to take care of. Will, I know you got people you want to take care of. We talked about this, last week. And you can do all of this work to uplift people, but what good is it if you're not here, tomorrow? What good is it for you? You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah.
I agree. I agree with you, and I'll say this. I'll go as far as this. That's why we train.
Right.
Because if you stay ready, you ain't got to get ready. That's why I trained my wife and my daughter how to shoot. I took them to the gun range. I taught them how to use a gun. My daughter's 18th birthday, that's what we did. Why? I was like, look, you're going to go off on your own. If something happens or there's a gun around you, you need to know how to use this. You need to know what it sounds like. You need to know what it feels like in your hands. You need to know how to protect yourself. So I'm 100% with you on that, knowing that you need to protect yourself, that we should be armed. I agree. The only issue is in California is you can be armed within your house, but we're not getting killed in our house. We're getting killed outside on the street, where I can have a gun locked up in the house, but it's not going to help me out in the street. Because why? It's got to be locked in the house. Or if it's in the car, it has to be, the gun could be in the car, but the magazine has to be separated from there. So I can't have any bullets in the chamber, can't have any bullets. But I can have the bullet on top of the car. I can have the gun inside the car, but the magazine's got to be in the trunk. So what's the point of that? Right. So California, they go so deep into it. And the reason why I know is because I've been looking into purchasing a weapon, a firearm.
Right.
I've been looking at purchasing a firearm for myself. I've been looking at doing that for this. I've been trying to see, well, what do I have to do to have a concealed carry permit here? If I'm allowed, or if we are allowed, you know? And that's the thing is, if we're in other states, it's a lot easier and it's a lot more lax, but they have that opportunity to be able to do so. But us being Californians, we aren't afforded that right. So that's why I know how to use these, and anything I can pick up, I'm pretty good with it too. Give me a stick, it's going to be a wrap for somebody.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And that's how we all need to be. So that's why the Black Panthers taught their men how to fight and their women how to fight. That's why the Nation of Islam have the fruit of Islam. That's their soldiers. They all know how to fight with weapons, without weapons. And that's the thing is we need to train each other up, but we got to come together to train. We got to be able to do that. But you are 100% right. We are Americans and we need to protect ourselves as Americans.
Because I agree with that, because Africa ain't gonna call over and be like, hey, stop fucking with our people, because they would have done that shit a long time ago if they were going to.
They got enough problems on their end. Raku's been looking at trying to say something for a minute.
I gotta go after Raku. I gotta get this thing off my chest. But
all right. One thing I want to say. Yes, I was watching. I watched this dude, Reza Islam. Because I don't have a father here or no male mentor. I'm mentored by him. I watch what he do and things like that, and I get some information from like things that goes on. He talked about learning how to defend yourself in terms of, with your weapons and with your fists. And I was raised in a house where, your fist is your only weapon. That should be your only weapon. That should be the only thing you would have to use. And it's sad that we would have to use other weapons like guns to defend ourselves. But one thing I wanted to say, I watched the video of the police call, where Gregory McMichael and his son was on a police call, and Gregory McMichael said that he is in the house and he started to run down the street. I'm chasing him, and then 3 minutes pass, and you hear his son or whoever else in the video saying "drop it," yelling "drop it," and then they go and say, "Oh, it was an act of self-defense. We felt we were threatened, that we felt like our lives were being threatened, and we were feared." But they were the ones with the weapons. They said Gregory said that that Ahmad attacked his son and then he shot. But that was a whole lie. Whoever was in the trunk shot first, and that's what alarmed Ahmad, and that's when he started to defend himself. And then one shot, another shot goes, he miss, and a third shot and hits him. So it's like, it's messed up the fact that they didn't even feel like arresting them until, the video came out. Then they're like, oh, we have to arrest them now. They let them sit at home for peacefully for over 2 months, 3 months, and it was crazy. Yeah, that's all I want to say.
Just like you said, man, there's lies within those two criminals that committed that act. But running back to what Will and I think Sean said about their favorite rapper who died, and basically everyone wanted to capture it on film and everything like that. Um, I'm gonna throw something out. You may agree, you may disagree. I really think 70% of African Americans in the United States are clinically depressed and do not know it. We see all this killings of Americans, Black people, and it's becoming the norm. And so therefore, people are desensitized to seeing it. And truly, like, I was looking at Tiger King and everyone was like, oh my gosh, all the tigers are not like in the free, they're being captured. And sometimes how they talk about extinct mammals, if I could just be real honest, I feel like African Americans are an extinct race, or not an instinct, but what is it?
Endangered.
Endangered species. That's what it was. And I feel that until we come together, they're gonna keep picking us off. And I mean, we have to be smart about knowing the laws. I think that's more importantly, because I think that's going to be the issue within this case. Are you going to send an ex-officer to jail? Because it's all buddy-buddy at the end of the day. But yeah, that's all I have to say.
Thank you for expanding on that. Yeah. It kind of this sort of portion kind of ties into what I was going, the next question I was going to pose, which was, for those of you who saw the post I sent earlier before, it was also about the lady who was stereotyping or just kind of just commenting on these two little African kids African garments in the middle of September, and was like, hey, you know, are you guys going trick-or-treating or something? And the mom flipped out and was like, why don't you ask their mother if they're going trick-or-treating in the middle of September? It's not even October. Halloween's not even happening right now. Do you think they'd be walking around in their costumes? And like, just kind of went off. And I wanted to ask, like, how would we handle racism in the level of ignorance of that? Because that was, as somebody mentioned before in the chat, like, that was just a display, I think it was Eddie, of ignorance. That racism was a display of ignorance and one second, and was not necessarily somebody trying to be malicious or to be, you know, overtly racist, as opposed to this Ahmaud Arbery thing. Like, how do we combat these two different levels, since our whole ideal and the consensus among us has been so far that we need to come together and rise up as a group in order to you know, let our voices all be heard, and we can stand our ground in appropriate ways. But other than that, how do we handle those two very, like, differently weighted instances of racism?
I feel like in that specific situation, that person should be educated. And in that very second, like, I can completely understand on a personal level why someone would get offended. Well, I'm not, you know what I mean. I'm not African, but you know what I mean. But I can understand why someone would get upset when someone doesn't understand your own traditions or your own culture or something like that. And I can completely understand that. So but in that situation, and I've been in that situation where people will make assumptions or assume things, and they'll be like, well, why this, why that? In those moments, I want to blow up. I want to get upset, because I'm like, how you just gonna sit there and say some shit like that without him being completely inconsiderate? But I've also had to keep in mind that you have to understand they don't know. They really genuinely have no idea. So in that very specific situation, you should educate that person.
So educate ignorance.
Educate ignorance, yeah. But in a situation where Well, in simpler terms, one should be educated and one should be attacked. One situation should be you going for that person, attacking that person, not physically, but just with your words, like just making it very clear that you're upset, making it very clear that this ain't right. Sometimes physical, but that's a different situation. But in that very specific situation where this person is offended because someone didn't understand their own culture or anything like that, that person should be educated. So just educate.
Yeah, I would say I agree with Will. I think the national narrative on African Americans has to change in order for major changes to happen. In the liberal states, that's likely going to happen, but in the states like Oklahoma, Missouri, and things of that nature, they're not going to get that wisdom. So until we change the narrative on how we view African Americans, I think it's going to take possible decades. What I will say is I would ask every man that's on this call, whenever you can vote, that you don't vote specifically just on Democrat or Republican. I would say vote for someone that fights for your interests. If there's a black agenda and you want that to be delivered, I would say vote for that. Because I think sometimes we just are automatically said, oh yeah, black people vote for Democrats. That's just how we do it. And I think that type of ideology has us where we're at.
What would you say is the black agenda? Because I think that is the biggest issue, is we have never figured out what exactly is the black agenda. We say that a lot, and we try to tell everybody, well, what is your black agenda? But we can't expect anybody else to have a black agenda because they don't know what it is. You couldn't ask that for President Obama. You can't ask that of Kamala Harris. You couldn't ask that of Cory Booker. Can't ask that of Joe Biden. There's nobody that could clearly give you a straight black agenda, because nobody knows, because we can never come together to decide what is it that we want. Like, what do we want?
All right, for my 2024 presidential candidate race, I'm running on the platform of Stop Killing Us. Sorry, go ahead. I just, that hit close because, like, for real, stop killing us.
Right. But Omega, I think you have a great point. I think as Black people, we need to agree on one agenda as Black people. However, I think it's very interesting that a lot of the candidates this year, some of them did have Black agendas that were related towards Black people. However, Biden does not. But Biden swept the South. And my thinking about this is, one, I think a non-Black president will be able to do more for Black people than any Black president, first and foremost. And secondly, we have to be willing to listen to what their agenda is, as opposed to just believing their association is good enough to get the job done.
I agree. And I will go as far as saying this. This is not going to be, this is an unpopular opinion, but it's going to line up with what you just said right now about the non-Black the non-Black presidential candidate getting us a bit further or more towards our agenda. I know I've flubbed that up big time. I'm sorry.
We know what you mean.
During the Trump's presidency, there has been what? Prison reform. There has been a huge push in prison reform. I mean, we could say what we want. We could not like the man for who he is or the way he runs the country, does everything. But, and I'm not saying I am a Trump supporter, and I'm not saying I am a Trump hater. I think all these candidates suck, honestly. I haven't found anybody that really, I feel, is really about us and about the country, first and foremost. But I will say, prison reform is a big step. And we could say who and or what has helped or contributed to it, but this has actually gotten the job done to an extent. And that's good. That's progress. I don't care who it came from, as long as it's happening.
I
You know what I
agree,
mean?
and I agree. I understand where you're coming from. To understand that it's not. I mean, it isn't Trump himself that's creating this reform. It's the fact that his presence is such in the direction of negativity and what we don't want. It's kind of like what we said earlier in the beginning of this show, is that we're learning what we don't want to be like. We're learning what we don't want our world, our country, to be known for. So there are those that are pushing for different things. Those that are within the system that are actually like trying to do good in spite of what we have around us. I mean, I have no qualm saying that I don't like Trump because he is a big orange orangutan. But beside that,
How about I'll slide in and
go
give you a
ahead,
moment to
go
think
ahead,
about
go
it.
ahead, go ahead.
I will go as far as saying this. I don't trust the media, and I'm not saying in far as in promotion for him, but just in general, because the media is so well trained and so good at making anybody look the way that they want them to look, whether it's guilty or innocent, whether they're good or bad. I mean, this dude has been in the public eye since forever, and he was praised by everybody from moguls to hip hop to everybody. Everybody wanted to be like him. And now that he went for the highest office, now they're finding every which way they can to demonize him. And I'm not saying this as a supporter. I'm saying this as that says something about our media, right? One of my really good friends is Ray McDonald, who's a former NFL player for the San Francisco 49ers. He was demonized in the media for stuff that was very untrue. But nobody cares about the facts. They just want the clicks. They just want what the news will say because they feel like the news is telling them the truth. And in hindsight, the news was misconstruing a lot of information. There's a lot of other stuff that was happening. And this is why we have to be careful with what we are feeding ourselves online and on the television.
Agreed.
And that's why everybody's like, I hate Trump, I hate this, I hate that. I can't say that because I don't know this man. I don't know what his real intentions are, because they're saying this dude was shooting free throws with paper towels in Puerto Rico, but we don't know, and I'm saying this, we don't know what the context of it was. Yeah, it doesn't look good. I agree. You're not going to see me at no natural disaster shooting free throws trying to be funny. That's not cool. But the way he handles certain things is the way he handles it. Because remember, the president that everybody heralded was the greatest, President Obama, who had his thing, I feel like he didn't do much because why? There's not much he could do. He was the face of hope. He sold hope, but they demonized him for wearing for what?
A tan suit.
And I don't think that was real, but you know what I'm saying. But that was pushed out there.
Right.
But they demonize him for so many different things. Then they praise him, but then they demonize him. Same thing with Trump. There's praise and there's demonizing. They're doing that with everything and everyone. So we just have to be careful and use discernment and figure out what is it that we really want, and be careful with how we ingest this media.
Media, society in general, hypnotizes people to believe narratives similar to somewhere like North Korea, where they hypnotize people from birth. I'm not trying to hate on what they do over there. I'm just trying to let me use an example. How someone can grow up believing one thing because that's what media tells them from birth, and then the narrative will change 15 years, 20 years later, and then they have to start believing that. And they will, because media has to be true, and they hypnotize people from birth. So it's like everyone wants to believe things that aren't even real, and it's kind of sad to think that there's a lot of lost people because of what they have seen growing up off of media and what society tells them. That's why a lot of people are racist, because they grew up in a family where it's all they knew. They didn't really have a choice. So now they're going to the real world like, wait, that's wrong. Me calling someone the hard R way, that's wrong, because that's all they knew. they were hypnotized at a young age to believe something. So that's what media does until the narrative flips and they want to try to hypnotize you to believe something completely different.
Agreed.
And that's something I can completely relate to. And Vo, you already know this for a fact because you know how pissed off in those conversations that me and you have had about my family and everything, about how I've grown up in a situation where I'm a mixed child. I have one culture and then one that doesn't fucking exist because they don't have shit. They just steal shit. But I can completely relate to that because I've had those people who tried to take and teach me one thing, which I always rejected that because deep down I always had this feeling that was just wrong and it didn't feel right. It's a very real thing that people just don't know anything else. They just don't believe in anything else because they're not able to.
Right. Sometimes it's hard. Like I said earlier, it's hard to understand someone else's side unless you're directly affected by it or involved in it. I was gonna say quickly to touch on O's point earlier. The reason why I feel like there are no good candidates right now because we had candidates that had the Black agenda in mind. For their candidacy and their presidency and what they want to push forward. But we're right now we're a culture of you have the cancel culture, the react culture. Like we're very reactive to things. So if good is being made, if good is being done, there's also going to be the group of individuals that are going to react to what is happening, and so they're gonna say, oh, they're specifically trying to pander to the Black agenda just so that they can win a vote, rather than trying to actually push forward for things that'll help not just Black people but everyone, Black people, especially in the areas in which we wish to have corrections, and every demographic. But if you're going to do that, then go forward in in that way, in that manner. But yeah, I was just saying because that's the only reason why I see that it's hard to find candidates and why we have such a hard time discerning a Black agenda that we would like. I feel the Black Panther Party had put it beautifully, with with the kinds of things that they'd want, and it's sad to see that that's not something that that as a culture now we're pushing for, because those are still things that as I look through the list, I'm like, shit, we could do some of those things today. Like right now.
They got stuff done. The fact that we have a breakfast program in our schools is because of the Black Panther Party. And that's what people don't remember, or they choose not to remember, or that they tried to get rid of. They got stuff done. And we can too. We're cool.
Going back to what you said about, we talk about the Black agenda, but don't even know what the Black agenda is, or we want from the Black agenda. I remember I've had this discussion with some of my family members, because I was talking about, the word nigga and what it meant and why we not supposed to say it. Because, I believe that words, they're spells, they have meanings that really matter, no matter how we depict it, no matter how we say, like I can call Sean, like, he my nigga, whatever. I mean, he's my friend. That's how I say it. But still, nigga was meant to, it was for a ignorant person. It didn't never said what color whatsoever. So the fact that people get mad because other races say nigga and call each other nigga is not, it's bad when somebody calls you a nigga. It shouldn't be bad when a race says, nigga, because then that means they're just calling each other ignorant, which most of the time they are. But yeah, we said the Black agenda, we know what it wants. I've asked a few of my cousins, what do they want? What do they see a black agenda as? And everybody said either equality or just like, like one thing, like one certain thing. But nobody said equity, which people, which is really what I try to tell people, like equity, not equality. That's all.
I was gonna jump in and say that, brother. You took it right out of my mouth. Man, equity. Woo!
Yeah. Oh, because like that's a conversation that O and I have had in the past. Omega and I have talked about, how every demographic has their own struggle, and everybody just wants to have that equity, and it's not what's being given across the board. It's why feminists fight so hard for women's rights. It's because they want equity. Why black people fight so hard for civil rights, equity. Yes, Omega is putting up a great image right now of equality versus equity. If we have 3 different height people and you all give them each a box, they're gonna stay 3 different heights. But if you give it would disappear though. If you give the people the appropriate amount of boxes to make everyone the same height, then that's equity. That's giving people everyone a chance to see over the fence in front of them, rather than giving everybody the same amount and expecting everyone to feel like they're all on the same footing, so to speak. Yo, Rich.
Great point, guys. Great point. 3 things I want to say. So one, I heard a guy say, I used to work in Nashville. I heard a guy say, for black people, like we didn't have an agenda to present Obama. We were just satisfied with him being in office. And that was it. You know what I'm saying? That's number 1. Number 2, even when we do have an agenda, we're silenced. For example, 1, Craig Hodges, right? So my old heads in here, they gonna know who Craig Hodges is. If you don't, I highly recommend a Google search. But when the Bulls won, exactly, thanks, Graham. When the Bulls won a championship, they go to the White House. I think it was George Bush who was in office. He presented George Bush, with, I guess, like bullet points or some pointers to help the black community. We never heard or saw Craig Hodges in the NBA again. You know what I'm saying? I want to say he was invited back to the 3-point contest again, but he technically wasn't in the NBA. You know what I'm saying? Which is sad.
He was defending his title. Yeah.
Thank you. Yes, sir. Another thing, Colin Kaepernick, most recently. You know what I'm saying? We see Colin Kaepernick take a stance. This man put his career on the line for me and guys that look like me and for us. You know what I'm saying? The man got talent, point blank period. You'll never be able to tell me that he don't. But, because it's not a cause the masses can't get behind, they want to silence him. So it's a tough, tight rope to walk when it comes to having rights, but also trying to speak up as well. But I agree with my man regarding equity. And I think that's on the same line as like generational wealth. How does equity come about? You know what I'm saying? Having those resources to gain equity. We didn't have those resources. Those resources were stolen from us. You know what I'm saying? And mind you, this is not accusing you at all because, sir, you hit it on the nail. You know what I'm saying? I will never not disagree with that. But, that's why I'm starting now. This morning, my guys, I hit them up this morning. I was, curious about an investment, and I wanted to get some input just to see if they're familiar about it, but also we can talk about it. But that was just me taking a step to try to gain some kind of wealth, some kind of money for the future, some kind of investment, so I can have that equity. But also, these guys know, look, if I got it, you got it too. You know what I'm saying? I'm going to try to spread some knowledge. So, but you hit it on the nail with the equity, sir. Kudos to you.
Great. Well, gentlemen, I feel like that's a great way to close this out. Yeah. I want to thank you guys. Something I want to send us out on it with is I don't want you to answer it. I want us to come back next week and kind of talk about it or just update each other on it. But I want you to think on how you can spread excellence, how you can spread compassion, and how you can spread education amongst your communities. And that's not just a question for those of us on the podcast. That's a question for everyone listening. Think about it in light of the negativity that's going around, in light of the struggles, the separation. How can we do things to bring us together? How can we do things to spread that excellence, to spread that compassion, and to spread that education?
Can I make a suggestion? Just if
Yes.
everybody's willing to do this. Can you, first of all, starting with you, can you message that question out to us?
Absolutely.
I was just about to say that.
What I would like to see if everybody could do is put that question up on your social media and see the responses that you get.
Most definitely.
Not necessarily probing you to have the conversation, but just see the information that comes back.
Most definitely.
And let's talk about, and let's also bring that to the table for next week. I think that'd be really cool, because I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna do that. Put that on all my social media platforms, and just probe. Because a lot of times I'll ask things or I'll put stuff on there, and I won't even engage in the conversation. I just like to see the conversation that's being had.
One thing I suggest too to everybody, is somebody who I don't know if y'all heard of him. Not is the poet. His name is Black Ice. I want everybody to look up. There was a poem he did with two other people called H.A.D. And the poem you see up, the poem, it was about like talking about how nobody lives matter until it's on a hashtag. That's how people see it. That's people see it nowadays. Nobody cares about anything until it's a hashtag. And yeah, I just think everybody should listen to that. And another thing, also going back to the first very question we asked, what do you want to give your kids? I want to give my kids the knowledge that not all of us were stolen or traded from Africa. So it was it was African tribes that were here, and indigenous tribes that were here that were free, and nobody talks about them. Nobody's gonna talk about them. That's personal research supposed to do on your own, which is bad. And going back to when we talked about how we don't really learn anything until college, that's unless we teach ourselves. And that's what I began to do. Instead of waiting on somebody else to teach us. Because if we wait on somebody else to teach us, they're going to fabricate everything that we try to learn. Yeah, that's all.
History is painted by the victors. I appreciate that, gentlemen. All right. Well, to another night, another great conversation. I raise my glass to you, gentlemen. Till next time, so we could sit, think, and have a drink. This was the Have a Drink podcast. Peace out, my brothers. Y'all can unmute.
Peace. Raku.
Yeah.
Hey,
Come back again, please. Come back again, please. And please connect with us. If you have IG, get into the group. Brother, you real special. That's all I got to say. Real special. You've been a wonderful addition, and it was great having you tonight. Please come back again.
I would.
Agreed.
Love you, brothers.
Love you, brother.
Me too.
Hey.
Peace.
Hey, Rock.